Hello everyone, this is the Astrofiend and I'm back with another video. For this video, I'm going to be doing an astrological analysis of the TV show Charmed, the original TV show Charmed, and its characters. So enjoy. Okay, for the first character I'm going to be talking about, it's Prue Halliwell. And Prue, for certain characters, for the main characters, which are the charmed ones, and Leo and their and the charmed one's grandmother and mother, they all have signs. And I decided to go with their signs for each of the characters. And not for any particular reason, other than the fact that, hey, they already have birth dates and I'm not gonna go against the grain for them, because they all kind of fit in some way and I don't have a problem with their sun signs. In the future, if a character on a show has a birth date that I don't agree with, I'll probably choose another sign for that character. But for these characters on this show, I'm like, it makes sense. I can't complain. And for Prue Halliwell, her character has a birth date, and it's October 28th, 1970, which makes her Scorpio sun. And for Prue Halliwell, I gave her a Virgo rising. She has a Scorpio sun, Capricorn moon, Scorpio Venus, and Cancer Mars. And Prue Halliwell is played by Shannon Dorothy, and Shannon has an Aries sun, a Scorpio moon, and a Pisces Venus. And Prue Halliwell, she's the oldest sister. She's an independent boss-ass woman, extremely protective and controlling, which is Scorpio sun and Venus and Cancer Mars. She's emotionally, physically, and mentally strong. She's angry and aggressive, and that's her moon in Capricorn opposite her Cancer Mars. She's very logical, responsible, reliable, which is Virgo rising and Capricorn moon. She comes across as very cold, upright, and rigid, which I attribute that to Virgo rising and Capricorn moon, but that can also be her Scorpio placements too. She's emotionally repressed, Capricorn moon. She's very discerning, critical, skeptical, and not that trusting, which are her Scorpio placements and also her Virgo rising and Capricorn moon. And just to give a backstory on Prue is the oldest sister, and her mother died when she was very young. So her and her sisters were raised by the grandmother, but at some point, the grandmother is getting older and she needed to step in. So she was like a surrogate third mother to her sisters, her younger sisters. So that also plays a role into why in the series some of these characteristics are a part of her character, because she's the oldest. Her mother died young, and her mother also died tragically. Her mother was a witch. Well, they're all witches, but her mother was a witch who battled a water demon that killed her through drowning. So Prue also had a lot of emotional issues that she had to work with. She was afraid of water. She had to overcome that fear. And she's, as I mentioned, very protective and controlling. And part of that is because she had to be. She had to step up. She had to take care of her siblings and help her grandmother. And that's part of her character. And even though she was only on the show for 3 seasons, we didn't see it develop as much as it can. But for the time being that she was there, these traits that she have, we see her evolve a little bit from this. and I'll mention it more a little bit later on this video, but I thought I'd just mention it now. Okay, this is a more minor supporting character, but this is a love interest for Prue, and that's Andy Trudeau. He's a police detective. He's a human being too, and he's a love interest to Prue. He's very loyal and stable. He's perceptive, and he's interested in the supernatural and the occult. And he was married before he met Prue, so before he reunited with Prue, so he's very traditional in relationships. And I gave him a Capricorn sun, a Scorpio moon, and an Aquarius risings for this reason. And just to give you some information on Prue's and Andy's relationships, the backstory is they were childhood friends who dated back in the day when they were teenagers. Andy was a police detective that investigated a lot of crimes that the charmed ones were involved in. So they kind of reconnected. They knew each other from childhood, but they reconnected. And as I mentioned, Andy was previously married, so he's an experienced Capricorn sun. With Capricorn suns, and why I gave him a Capricorn sun as his sun is because they're very mature. They mature fast. They're very responsible, and the fact that he was previously married, and I would say he was probably in his early 30s, and to be previously married and divorced around that age range just proves like he's more of a mature minded individual, if that makes any sense. Anyway, giving him a Capricorn sun, and with Prue with the Scorpio sun, their suns sextile each other, which means that they have natural chemistry and an understanding of each other's personalities. Prue being in a Capricorn moon and Andy being a Scorpio moon, she felt like she can trust him. It took her a bit of a time for her to trust him, but it was sort of a natural thing. And with their moons also sextiling each other, there's just a natural attraction, connection, and an emotional bond between the two. And note that Prue's moon conjuncts his Capricorn sun, and her Scorpio sun conjuncts Andy's Scorpio moon. Anyway, the relationship ended when he was killed, and the relationship lesson, Prue was very hurt. Like, obviously she was very hurt, but she was very hurt, but she truly learned how to trust and confide in someone. And I feel that her being a witch and battling demons was a catalyst for her emotional evolution. Like Phoebe coming back, it's just like a perfect storm. Phoebe coming back, her getting powers and learning about magic sort of helped, and Andy also helped because she chose for him to be around. It was a choice that she made. She wanted to be open with him, and she loved him. So with Prue, it's just her learning more how to trust and confide in someone, and she took that lessons through different parts of her story. Okay, the next character is Piper Halliwell, and the website that I got her birth date gives her a Leo sun. And for Piper, Leo sun, and I chose a Cancer rising for her, a Pisces moon, a Virgo Venus, and a Cancer Mars. Piper Halliwell is played by Holly Marie Combs. Holly has a Sagittarius sun, Pisces moon, and a Capricorn Venus. Piper Halliwell, she's the middle sister, but once Prue died, she became the oldest. She's loving, she's nurturing, and very maternal. She aspires to be a chef and is the only sister with children by the end of the TV series. And that's pretty much all her placements, but especially Leo's Sun, Cancer rising, and Mars, because Leos are very loving and open, and Cancer placements are naturally very nurturing and maternal. She's also very ambitious and business savvy, which I attribute to Leo's Sun, Virgo, Venus, Cancer, Mars, and rising. She's very anxious, neurotic, and a worrier. That's like the Virgo, Venus, and the Cancer, Mars energy. And she was a mediator between Prue and Phoebe, which is like the Pisces moon. Like, she was like very in the middle. She didn't really start drama, and she more like kept the peace between the older sister Prue and the youngest sister at the time, Phoebe. And I gave her a moon opposite Venus, so moon in Pisces opposite Venus in Virgo, which means that there's a conflict between her emotions, moon, sense of comfort, moon, what she loves and finds beautiful, Venus. The next character is Leo Wyatt, and for this character, he has a birth date that falls into Taurus zodiac sign, and technically he can also have a Scorpio sun, since he was died, and the same date that he died he was reborn, and that fell into Scorpio season. But I'm just going to keep his original birth date because that was when he was born. Anyway, Taurus sun, Pisces rising, Taurus moon, Taurus Venus, and Virgo Mars. And Leo Wyatt is played by Brian Krause. Brian, he has an Aquarius sun, Leo moon, and Pisces Venus. And Leo Wyatt, he's the love interest and later husband of Piper. He's also a white lighter, which is a healer and a protective guardian to the charmed ones and other spiritual beings. And he's very grounded, cool, calm, and collected, which is very Taurus. And he has a stellium in Taurus with Sun, Venus, and Moon in Taurus. And he came back from the dead, was reborn, and started a new life to help others on their spiritual and magical journey, which is very Pisces and Virgo. So that's where the Pisces rising and Virgo Mars comes in. He's very loyal and supportive, which is all of his placements. And for his placements, I just want to stress the fact that the themes of who he is as a person on the show is he's one of duty, of focus, service, love, and dedication. Like, honestly, he's like a ride or die. Like, Leo is like the man. Anyway, to get into Piper's and Leo's relationship, the backstory is Leo was a veteran who died, I guess, in war and was resurrected as a white lighter, sent to protect the charmed ones and other magical beings. Leo posed as a handyman before revealing himself. Thus, he appeared under false pretenses. However, he was able to win the trust of the charmed ones and has since protected and guided them. And the relationship between Piper and Leo is forbidden because Leo is a white lighter and the charmed ones are witches, and you know that's not a thing. But this is where Piper's moon opposite Venus comes in, because there's a conflict between her emotions and her sense of comfort and what she loves and finds beautiful, which is which, to give an example of this placement, is her relationship with Leo. And she feels very safe around Leo. And Piper's not naturally a rule breaker, but she broke a rule for love, which is sort of very Pisces moon, Neptunian of her. And since Leo, I gave him a Pisces rising, it also appeals to him too. And she cannot lose control or trust in this Neptunian love at first, so she constantly freaks out and expresses her anxious Virgo Venus energy. However, she learns to manage this energy, especially when Leo is not allowed to see her, or there's some sort of conflict where they can't be together. So it allows her to build up her strength. And other than the forbidden love angle, Piper and Leo have very healthy relationships. They're both very loving, reliable, and compassionate. And the synastry between them and their astrology is that they both have squared suns. And square suns, there's some sort of conflict, but to be honest, they both have fixed zodiac signs, like zodiac sun signs, so isn't that much of an issue, in my opinion, than other sort of qualities. Like, let's say it's like an Aries and a Libra. I will feel it'll be harder because it's a cardinal energy. Like if Piper was an Aries and Leo was a Libra, it would be kind of like difficult energy, because cardinals, like, they like to like start things. They like to, with fixed signs, they're very stubborn and stable, and they take a while to get angry. I would say there is stubbornness between them, but again, like, even the signs that they have, with Piper being a Leo, and Leo ironically being Taurus and not Leo, but Leo being a Taurus, it's that these are like some of the most like chillest and calmest signs. And I mean, off the bat, technically Leo isn't really chill, but no, like, out of all the signs, like, they're also fixed. And she has like Pisces energy in her and Cancer energy in her, so she's like a calmer Leo, so it can work in that situation. And she also has like she also has immutable Venus, which kind of changed the dynamic. Anyway, there's also sextile rising. Their rising and Mars signs are sextiles, and Leo's Sun, Moon, and Venus stellium in Taurus trines Piper's Virgo Venus, so they're naturally like connected on a relationship relatable level. And the relationships lessons that Leo and Piper and Leo learn is, well, for Piper, is to trust and believe in her powers, to believe in the power of love, and for Leo to learn that he's not responsible for everything. Okay, next is Phoebe Halliwell, and she's a Scorpio sun, a Gemini rising, Sagittarius moon, Scorpio Venus, and late Aquarius Mars. Phoebe Halliwell is played by Alyssa Milano. Alyssa has a Sagittarius sun, Gemini moon, and Sagittarius Venus. For Phoebe Halliwell, she's the youngest, but when Prue died, she became the middle sister. She's very warm, trusting, naive, and mature, and she has very weak boundaries with people, which I attribute to Gemini rising, Sagittarius moon. She's very curious, open-minded, and kind-hearted. She has willingness to learn and make mistakes, which is also Gemini rising and Sagittarius moon. She loves hard. She's very intuitive and passionate. And she has to learn the hard way through relationships, which is very Scorpio sun and Venus. She's also very independent, rebellious, and able to defend herself, which is Aquarius Mars. To be honest, I had a hard time picking a Mars sign for Phoebe. And yeah, I just had a hard time. I considered Sagittarius Mars, Scorpio Mars, like other Mars signs, but I decided with the late Mars in Aquarius, that way it could be kind of close and on the cusp to Pisces. By the way, this is all hypothetical. Like, I don't have degrees for any of these signs. And maybe if I were to do a chart, actually I did a chart based on the birth dates for the sisters, and using Sagittarius as the place, using San Francisco as the place of their birth. And I look at their charts, and their charts look whack. I was like, no, I'd rather choose myself. So I just gave her an Aquarius Mars, because I would say, like, she is very independent and rebellious, and she's very, like, able to defend herself. And with Mars and Pisces, like, Mars will, like, want to play the victim. No offense to Mars and Pisces people, but they'll want to, like, absorb people's energy, want to play the victim. They want to fight back, or they'll do it indirectly. And if they do decide to fight back directly, they'll be like, feel guilty about it. And like Phoebe, she's like a spitfire. Like, that's not her. And I also decided on Mars in Aquarius because I was reading the fandom page, the Wikia, I think that's how you pronounce it, for Charmed. And she was very rebellious in her teen years. She started out as like a good student, but she kind of like lost her way a little bit and became rebellious. And she had a childhood nickname known as Phoebe because she made out with a student in the principal's office, which is so like rebellious. So I just decided on Mars and Aquarius. Anyway, she has a Sun and Venus in Scorpio, and that's also one of the reasons why I also chose Mars in Aquarius, because her Sun and Venus in Scorpio is squaring her Aquarius Mars, which means that her ego / personality and how she loves, which is Sun and Venus, is in conflict with her actions, which is Mars in Aquarius. And I just want to point that she's naturally confident and very self-assured. Oh, fuck boy Cole. Just playing. Well, no, I'm not playing. Anyway, for fuckboy Cole, I gave him a Gemini sun, an Aries moon, and a Pisces rising. Okay, he's like the big love interest for Phoebe. And just to give you a background, he's a half demon, half human named Balthazar. So he has like this dual nature, which is why I picked Gemini's sun. And he's very sneaky and selfish, which is like pretty much all his placements, but especially Aries moon. He came back from the dead several times, and he's just like this confused, problematic, tortured, and conflicted soul. Anyway, Cole Turner is played by Julian McMahon, whatever. Anyway, Julian has a Leo sun, a Leo moon, and a Leo Venus, which is kind of crazy. Anyway, to get into Phoebe and fuckboy Cole's relationship, the backstory is that Cole came to Phoebe under false pretenses like Leo, except for the fact that Cole's freaking evil and he was sent to kill Phoebe and her sisters, but somehow managed to fall in love with her. As I mentioned before, he's a half demon and a half human. And on your right is a picture of his demon form, Balthazar. And as you can see, Balthazar is ugly as fuck. So yeah, that's how he really looks. And when he gets mad, he looks like that. So ill. Anyway, their relationship just goes ugh. Their relationship. Anyway, after being off and on, because Phoebe was very conflicted by the fact that he was fucking evil, but you know, whatever, he's evil, but you know, he's just like half evil because he's like a half demon. So like sometimes he's evil, but sometimes he's just regular human being. Anyway, he manipulated her into marrying him, but you know, Phoebe was stigmatized and she eventually snapped out of everything, got a divorce, and vanquished his ass after he tried to kill Paige. So yeah. Anyway, this was a very toxic relationship, mainly because Cole was mostly evil throughout the whole relationship. I mean, he tried to be good, but anyway, he had a dual nature. So there was dual forces at work, other than him being like, you know, half demon, half human. But you know, when you're half demon and half human, you're pretty much a demon. Like, there's no way around it. Like you can't be fucking half evil. Like, what the fuck? That's like putting red Kool-Aid, like the flavor packets, into water. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. No. I mean, he tried though, but he had a dual nature, dual forces at work. That's why I gave Cole a Pisces rising, and it squared his Gemini sun, which means that there was a conflict between who he appears to be, which was his Pisces rising, and who he actually is, which is Gemini sun. And if you know how the relationship worked, how it was off and on and blah 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 blah, as you can see, I'm just annoyed about the relationship. Like, when I first watched the show, I thought it was like, oh, it's so cute and all that. Well, I never really thought it was that cute. I just thought, oh, he's really good. But me rewatching the series, no, he wasn't never really good. I mean, he wasn't necessarily like the most evil person, but he was just selfish. That's why I chose like an Aries moon for him, because even when Phoebe didn't want him, like, he tried to go back in time to get Phoebe to fall back in love with him. And he also tried to kill like her sister. He was just a mess. Anyway, the themes of their relationship, Cole kept dragging Phoebe down. And you know, I'm blaming Cole, but Phoebe, she was too weak-willed and blinded by love and lust, denial about his true nature. Like, she just couldn't resist. Like, she knew, she's very intuitive. Like, she's no dumbass. She's a strong ass woman. She knew their relationship wasn't right, but she kept going back to him. And she was just blinded by love. Like, love is blind. Like, she had to see who Cole truly was. And what Cole truly was an insecure, selfish, and immature man who at worst was evil and at best was just selfish and confused. And yeah, I would say that maybe it wasn't really love, it was more like lust. And her Sagittarius placements were just going crazy over his like Pisces rising. She thought he was so sensitive. And his Gemini sun, because whatever. The relationship lessons, I didn't really give it a relationship lessons because I felt Phoebe knew better. And to be honest, I felt the writers just wanted to include this relationship because maybe she did learn from the relationship, but I honestly, maybe I have to do some research and maybe like I have to think about it some more, but I can't think about it right now. But in my mind, like, this relationship was there just for like entertainment. Well, not just for entertainment, no, just for entertainment purposes. Because what was the purpose of that relationship? Like, I don't understand it, to be honest. Because Phoebe, I mean, maybe she just had to learn and like grow to not like be so immature and so like stupid. Because I would say Phoebe, like, she had a lot of growth throughout this show and the series, and she just like, you know, learned to think about her actions and like not to have such weak boundaries and just to let everyone in. And of course, a part of that is because of her youth. And maybe, I guess, one of the lessons is not necessarily for Phoebe or about Phoebe, but it's just an example of her youth and the toxic, abusive relationship that she was in. And it's just an example of where she's at in her life. Maybe that's the lesson. I don't know. I'm spending too long on this. Anyway, next is the new sister. This is Paige Matthews. And with Paige, they have Leo's sun for her character. I can go with Leo's sun. I can also go with a Virgo sun. But I was like, whatever, Leo's sun. Anyway, Paige Matthews, a Leo's sun. I gave her a Virgo rising, a Virgo moon, Leo Venus, and an Aries Mars. And Paige Matthews is played by Rose McGowan. Rose has Virgo sun, Sagittarius moon, and Libra Venus. And Paige Matthews is the youngest sister, and after Prue died, fun fact, Prue, which was played by Shannon Dorothy, and Phoebe, which is played by Alyssa Milano, they hated each other and they bickered on set. Like, they hated each other. So I guess the writers maybe had enough, or maybe Shannon or one of them had enough, so I guess she was killed off because, you know, of the drama. I don't know. Like, I read it a few years ago, but I forgot all the details because it's like, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Paige Matthews. She's the new youngest sister, and just to give you the backstory, she was adopted, and the Halliwells, the Charm One's mother, Patty, she had an affair with her white lighter. So Paige is half witch and half white lighter, and she was adopted because, again, relationships between witches and white lighters were forbidden, especially during the time when she was born, and babies from that is like also forbidden. So I read on the Wikia page, the fandom page for Charms, that the grandmother feared that the girls' powers will be taken away and that their destiny will be stripped for them. So they made the hard decision to pretty much give up Paige and for her to be adopted. Anyway, Paige, it was hard for me to decide because I couldn't really remember her characteristics, which is strange because she's been on the show longer than Prue, but I just remember Prue. And it's strange because I watched the show when it aired. I don't think I started watching it, but I think maybe around the second or third season I kind of started watching it. Listen, I was tuning in and out. Like, I watched Buffy when it originally aired, but again, I was much younger during this period, so it's all my kid shit. And you know, this was a time where kids were actually kids. I know for me, I was like a kid. I was watching my kid shit. I was on my kid flow. And I wasn't like really, I was interested in these shows, but I also wasn't in a way. Like, it was interesting to me, but again, like, I was much younger. I'm going off on a tangent. Anyway, for Paige, she's very snappy. She has a bit of an attitude and can be rude and sarcastic sometimes. But you know, she knows how to defend herself, and I attribute that to all her placements, her astrology placements, but especially her Aries Mars and her Leo placements. And in the beginning, like, seasons, well, when she first got onto the show, like, she felt like she was in the shadow of her dead half sister Prue, and she sometimes felt insecure about her place in the Halliwell realm, the Charmed One's realm, and her abilities. And she has a strange mixture of being very fiery but also very grounded. And she's very smart. She figures things out easily and quickly, which I attribute to Virgo rising and moon. She's always willing to help, and she goes where she's needed, which is very like Virgo Venus and Leo placements, like rising and sun. And she's naturally forthcoming, naturally confident, and very supportive. And I attribute that to all her signs, but especially her Leo rising, Leo sun, and Aries Mars. Okay, to get into the relationship dynamics for a little bit, for Prue, Phoebe, and Piper. Prue, in the beginning of the show, couldn't trust Phoebe and thought that Phoebe was very irresponsible. And Prue wasn't wrong, but for much of the series, until she was killed off, Prue had to learn that Phoebe was her own person, and that she had to learn from her own mistakes and mature and get her act together on her own. And the reason why I also kept both their sun signs as Scorpio is because I wanted to like showcase the different kind of Scorpios, because Prue and Phoebe are both Scorpio suns, but Phoebe is a more lighter Scorpio and Prue is a more serious and grounded Scorpio. But they're both very passionate, they're both fighters, and they're very similar, which probably is why they fought so much, because they're very strong-willed. They could be like stubborn, but Phoebe less so. Anyway, Prue also acted like a strict mother type. Well, not mom, but strict mother figure to her sisters. Like, Phoebe and Piper both looked up to Prue, especially when they were younger, but once they got older, like, they needed Prue to be more of an older sister than a mother, and Prue had to realize that she needs to back off and let her sisters do their own thing and be their own people. And after Prue died, there was also the sister relationship between Piper, Phoebe, and Paige. And Piper, she had to take some time to get used to Paige because she was grieving the death of Prue. Phoebe, however, welcomes Paige with open arms, and for Phoebe, that's like her Gemini Sagittarius energy that I chose for her. And Piper is like a Leo sun, but she has a Virgo Venus, so she's like, has to deal with her ish. And to be honest, between those three, there was not that much drama or tension. They all accepted their individuality and personalities, which made it easier. Like, no one was like the leader. They all like worked together better. A better dynamic. And I think that's because I gave Paige, because Paige has a Leo sun. And even though all their suns square each other, there's different kind of squares. As I mentioned before, some squares are like harder to work with partially because of the sign and because of the quality. Like, just to give you an example again, like if one sister was an Aries and one sister was Libra, it may be more tension because Aries and Libras are both cardinal signs, so they like to start shit and get shit going. And fixed signs, they're more stubborn, they're slower to anger, and most of the time they don't really decide to be angry because they're like, whatever, like they know who they are and they know who that person is that they're around, so they're like whatever with it. Next we have Darryl Morris, and he's a minor character, like a minor supporting character. And honestly, to be a real, he's like the token black dude. Like, every show has a supporting character that's like the token black person. So he's like the token black person. And for him, he's a Virgo sun, Taurus rising, Leo moon, and he's a police detective. He's a human and he's a friend to the charmed ones. As I mentioned, he's human, he's loyal and stable, he's logical and very reasonable. When he first learned that the charmed ones were like witches, he was kind of freaked out about it, but he was very open-minded to it. And like, he's also a ride or die. He wasn't here for the F stuff. And he was very ride or die and very calm, cool, and collected. And to be honest, they could have expanded his character more. Like, they could have done better with his character. I mean, he was more to the background, and I know at some point he had a wife and kids, and I think there was an episode when his wife was kind of there, but he was just like the token black dude. I know that sounds messed up, but I say that because we don't know much about him. And like towards the end of the show and series, like he kind of just like faded into the background. They could have done more with this character, but I liked him. He was a cool dude. He was a ride or die. So, whatevs. Okay. Next is a sort of minor character, recurring character, important character, but minor. This is the grandma, the Gma, Penny Halliwell. And they have a birth date for her too. She's a Cancer sun. I chose Leo moon and Gemini rising. She's the dead ghost grandmother to the charmed ones. She's very conniving, kind of an instigator, but overall strong and very protective. She kept the girls' powers a secret from them as kids growing up. And she did a lot of shady shit to protect her loved ones. Let's just say that. She's very extra with flair for the dramatics and very fun nature. She lived a very YOLO life. You only live life once. She had 3 husbands. She was a hippie. She had an affair with a demon. Very independent. Very morally flexible. AKA the part where she had an affair with a demon. Like, how are you supposed to be a good witch but you have an affair with a demon? Whatever, not my business. And otherwise, she came very jaded when her first husband was murdered. So that kind of changed her attitude towards humans and to men too. Next is the charmed one's mother. She's an Aries sun, and they also have a birth date for her. Scorpio rising and Pisces moon. Mother to the charmed ones. She's a dead ghost, like, obviously. She's very passionate and strong, and definitely a rule breaker. She had a forbidden affair with her white lighter. And Piper sort of repeat this pattern by having a forbidden romance and love with a white lighter, aka Leo. The next character is Billie Jenkins. She started off as just some like minor character, but she quickly turned into a villain. And that's partially because of another character that's a villainous bitch. Anyway, Billie Jenkins, Pisces sun, Pisces moon, and Aries rising. Jealous hater witch villain. She started off like a good sort of character, very overconfident, and she's talented magically. But then her sister plays a role. Just to give backstory, her sister, they're both witches. Her sister is like a year older than her. Her sister was kidnapped and went missing, and she didn't know what happened to her sister. And then her sister came back years later. It turns out that her sister was brainwashed by an evil demon. She was brainwashed so she could be a formidable foe, aka antagonist to the charmed ones. So she was pretty much brought up to like battle the charmed ones. And yeah. Anyway, to get back into Billie's character, she was manipulated and very gullible of her sister because, her sister was missing all these years. She finally came back. So she was just swept up by being with her sister and just feeling like sad and guilty by her being missing. So she chose her sister's side and was manipulated by her sister. When she realized that her sister was a lying piece of crap, she had the ability to discern the situation and can tell the difference between right and wrong. So in the end, she learned from her mistake, realized that she was wrong, and she tried to make it right and try to redeem herself. She also tried to get her sister to stop being such an evil bitch but her sister was like, fuck out of here. And she ultimately had to defend herself against her sister because her stubborn ass sister couldn't get the fact that she was about to lose. But yeah, those are the reasons why I chose a Pisces sun and Pisces moon, because Billie she was very confident and talented magically, but she was easily manipulated. Like, that was so easy. And she was basically good natured, but she had weak boundaries, and she was too trusting, if that makes any sense. But like, you know, the overconfident part, the talented magically part, that's her like Aries stuff, her Aries rising. But you know what, let's get to the sister. For the sister, I gave her a Pisces sun and an Aries moon and a Scorpio rising. Again, her sister's name is Christy, by the way. She should really be called Becky because she's like a basic biatch. Let me stop. Anyway, she's a jealous hater witch villain. She's overconfident and she's self-righteous. She's a manipulative bully, but she's also easily manipulated because, you know, she was kidnapped by an evil demon. She was brainwashed. There must have been trauma. But she's very decisive and stubborn, and the stubbornness, I guess, would be like the Scorpio rising and the Aries moon. Like, even after knowing that she's wrong and losing, she's still stubborn and she died for it. And you know what? She also tried to kill her sister because her sister's like, bitch, you wrong. What are you doing? Stop it. You're being manipulated by evil. Stop it. So she's like, no, Billie. You either stand with me or you're my enemy. And Billie was like, no, hell nah, girl. I'm not standing with you. So Chrissy was like, nah, I'm gonna kill you. But you know what? She ended up killing herself. Because Billie was like, nah, you're not killing me. And she defended herself. And by Billie blocking her attack, it bounced back to her. And pretty much, by trying to kill her sister, she killed herself. Which means that she's not too bright. Whatever the case, as I mentioned, like, she was a manipulative bully. Which is all those placements. The bad side of those placements. Anyway, just some quick thoughts on the Charmed reboot. Honestly, I haven't seen the show. I don't really want to see the show because I looked at the trailer. Ugh, that trailer was so corny, it was so cheesy, and it was just disrespectful. Like, the quality and the acting, ugh. Honestly, these group of girls, they look like a singing group. They look like a group of friends, but they don't look like sisters. That's kind of petty, but even recently, I saw like a trailer for like an episode, and I was just like, what the F are they doing? What are they doing? Like, ugh, CW, what are you doing? But you know what? Maybe I'll give it a chance. Maybe I won't be bored. But I mean, it is what it is. I understand them bringing it back for the younger generation because they don't know about it, but there's something called Netflix or Hulu. So, like, why do you have to F up the Charm legacy? I don't know. I'm being whatever. Anyway, that's my analysis of the show Charmed. Very long, so if you stuck with it to the end, you my homies. Anyways, what do you think? What do you think for all the character signs? And comments. I want to know your opinions. Blah, 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 blah. This is very long. I've been talking for over an hour. My voice is very sore. And I plan on doing it for all the shows that I love and like, and maybe movies. But I hope you enjoy. Check out my blog. I'm also going to write a blog and put up a blog post on theastrofiend.com. Anyways, I hope you enjoy. Peace out. Bye.